What's going on? We're ready to rock and roll Lethal Collective on Mondays. Guys, today we're going to get into some missing 411 stories. And this is going to be really, really interesting. And shout out to Julie, who gave this as a request as one of our channel members. So, Julie, and I know she's in the chat. Great idea, some interesting stuff that we found, and can't wait to talk about. For you guys in the chat, thank you for being with us. We see you guys. We got Kyle's in the chat. What's up, man? We got Paula, Neems, Julie saying hey to everyone. What's up? Good to see all of you guys. Russell, ready to rock and roll as always. Russell, you're all right. Wayne, what's going on, Wayne? Hope you're doing well. All right. You guys are too funny, man. Wayne says, and it's too expensive for me to join the Lethal Collective, expensive here in Australia. But is it though? Is it? No, I'm just
Australia,
with you, Wayne.
Is it worse than America right now? That's my question.
Pretty bad.
Right? Right? Hey, you're welcome, Julie.
Thank you.
Thank you for the suggestion. And again, Steven, you just beat me to the punch. You're all right, man. If you'd like to become a channel member, this is the link, or you can hit the join button next to the subscribe button, and you too could give us ideas for topics for future live streams and videos. So yeah,
you can actually become a part of the show with our content by becoming a channel member.
Yes,
think about this.
Yes.
$10 a month. Break that down, boys.
$10 a month is basically like
30 cents a day.
$2
two and a half coffees.
Yeah, like $2.25 a week. I mean, I don't know if anybody's been to
30 cents a day.
Yeah, if anybody's been to Starbucks lately, but you could drop $6 on a freaking coffee.
Yeah,
and that's just one time in a month,
right? Or we could keep you awake.
See? I'm just saying.
Hours a week.
See?
Good. He is the best.
Throw your coffee out.
Hours of endless entertainment.
That's right.
For $9.99 a month. I mean, come on, man. That's the best deal online, other than, well, sites you probably shouldn't be looking at very often. All right, that's some value there, my friends.
It's $20 for HBO Max right now. You know, I just want to say that. It's also like
that's true.
Brazzers was free last week, though. I just want to say that. Anyways,
going on.
Point taken.
Who needs the hub when you have us?
Who needs the hub, bro?
What? Like, come on, man. That's like Showtime or the Lethal Collective. This is far more entertaining than anything on Showtime.
It's like Showtime at the Apollo, but better.
That's right.
Wayne says $14.99 Australian. Okay,
still a great deal. Great deal.
So 3 coffees.
And you know what? If you have Showtime or HBO Max, guess what? They're not going to listen to any of your ideas for content. They don't care what you think.
Exactly.
We do.
Wayne, you don't need to eat. Take like a week. Do a fast. Do a little fast. Get the membership. See? Boom. Problem solved.
Wow.
Whatever it takes, man.
Just get a big jar of peanut butter. Just do that for a week. You'll be fine.
I did a fast right after Thanksgiving. It's good for you.
Last time I looked, ramen noodles, 30 cents a pack. Do the math.
Wow.
Dude. Wow. There you go, man.
Good old ramen noodles. You can't go wrong with ramen noodles. Nope. Boil an egg, throw it in there.
Throw it in there.
We're gonna be
dump that powder, stir that biak, and you're good to go.
We're gonna be the next streamers that are getting in trouble for yelling at their audience for being poor. Like who is the recent one?
I know.
Was it Pokimane? Yeah, it was.
Yeah. She's over there like, if you can't afford a $50 box of cookies, then sorry,
man,
you're broke. Like,
wow.
If you can't afford
that's terrible.
to eat for a week, then support the Lethal Collective.
Holy crap, man.
It's great.
So guys, today oh Lord. So today, and speaking of which, just to answer Paula saying, do you guys do true crime? You know, we definitely are looking to talk about
Definitely.
crime as well. So
Yeah, and for
definitely
channel
reach-
members, you suggest true crime. Well, it's a good chance you might see it.
That's right. That's right. We've got plenty of ideas and different avenues that we want to talk about as far as our new content. But today we're talking about missing 411 disappearances, and also the whole idea of in the national parks. And I didn't even know that this was as huge of a thing as it was. So again, thanks to Julie about this. But the idea of feral people in national parks and stuff like that. It's crazy stuff, man. But I'll start off because I've got a case. It's a pretty small case that I wanted to throw out to you guys and see what you thought of it. But there's this story, and I jotted down some notes of Stacey Aris in 1981. And from what I understand, it was in Yosemite National Park. And Stacey was a 14-year-old girl on a horse riding trip with her family. I believe it was her father and several other friends in Yosemite National Park. What was likely a picturesque and enjoyable ride over the stunning wilderness became a nightmare for the family. After arriving at their camp, she cleaned up, decided to take a walk. The girl asked her father and also another member of the party to join her, but they denied. They didn't want to go with her and stuff like that. So she made it clear her walk was only going to be down to a lake nearby in order to take some photographs and to stretch her legs. The lake was within, from what was told in this story, the lake was within earshot of the site, and the area was not known for any type of animals or anything like that, any attacks. Her father probably thought that this was going to be an okay thing. But I guess once she started her short walk, she was never seen again. So this young lady, Stacey, was never seen again. They had a comprehensive search, a thorough search that lasted over, hold on. Oh, yeah, okay. Over 8 days, 100 people. They had dogs, they had helicopters, nothing except for the lens of her camera was ever found. So that was that was one story that I found, and it's just like, wow. I mean, that's crazy. I mean, what do you guys think might have happened to her? I mean, you've got 100 people covering that area for multiple days, over a week. You have the dogs, the sniffer dogs, so they're really good at finding whatever, helicopters, everything. What do you guys think happened to this girl?
The megalodon.
The Meg 3.
The Meg 3.
Oh,
No, but
man.
Jake, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, there's a lot of questions here. I mean, you said there was no animals in the area, so it's not like
Right.
it's unlikely that she would be attacked. But also, you said they didn't find a body, like they didn't find anything.
They didn't find any, from what the story has as far as its information. They didn't find anything except for her camera lens.
See, like if
the
it was
cap of the camera lens, I should say.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
See, like if this was an animal attack, you would have found something. You know what I mean?
Right.
Animals are not covering their tracks. Like they're ripping someone
Right.
apart, leaving the rest of them there. You would have found something eventually. But the fact that like nothing's there, it makes me think that like like something happened to her involving another human being, which is horrifying and lends itself to some pretty dark outcomes. But that's got to be what it is. I mean, if 100 people are out there, they can't find something. It's got to be some kind of human interference. That's unfortunately just some kind of awful, terrible outcome. But I don't know. That's just my thoughts based off of that. What you gave us there. I can't see it being an animal attack personally.
Right. I mean, that's what was so creepy, because like you said, if it was an animal attack, you would have seen some type of evidence, right? You would have seen, well, I won't get into the gory details, but you
More
get
than
what
a
I mean.
camera
Something.
lens.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And especially with the dogs out there and so forth. So my thought too was, well, yeah, it could have been something human, or maybe something that's a little bit less than human. The whole idea of these feral people, people that live in these areas. And there was this one thing I found on the internet where they were kind of paralleling this stuff to, like, for those of us that are huge into horror, obviously the four of us are in our audience, like the Wrong Turn films, right? People that intentionally live so far off the grid and basically have their like mini society. And that's the only thing that could come to my mind either, unless it's something that could be extraterrestrial or supernatural. That's a whole nother story.
See,
Because again, there was no trace that she ever existed. That's what's crazy, right? Just the cap of her camera lens. That's the thing that gets me. Like, if they said they found whatever, a shoe or hair tie or hair follicles or something like that, but nothing according to what was said. So that's creepy.
Aliens would make sense.
Hey man,
to me it does. Aliens picking her up out of the sky. She drops the camera lens. That's all she leaves behind.
Fire
it makes sense,
sky, bro. Fire in the sky.
Fire in the sky, man. I don't know. That's what I'm going with. Aliens. Craven, what do you think, man?
Well, I think I'll probably cash out something more earthly.
You're no fun.
I know.
You're no
Sorry.
What do you think? Ooh.
I mean, I can't say impossible to the alien idea, but I to me, it's probably an abduction. Sadly, the age of the individual, the nature of predators. I can picture there being literally, someone that just snatched and grabbed, and her lens, they found her lens, it dropped or whatever happened there. But yeah, I would have to say, if I had to wager on what happened, again, without knowing any real evidence, I would say it was an abduction case, and predator probably saw her and saw an opportunity to act on it and did it. And sadly, those rarely turn out good. At the end of the day, they usually, turn out in the worst scenario. So that's my guess. I think it's just simple. I won't say simple. I think it's probably in a predatory abduction because of her age. Yeah.
How about you, Fate?
Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, it only takes a second, right? How many times turn your back and somebody's gone. And I mean, there's always like, because you said it was like, do we know it was a lake, right? So do we know if the lake washes anywhere?
That I don't know.
Because like some of those lakes, like some of it, especially in some areas, like they have like little systems underneath, or they have like even like almost like manholes that like water will filter through and stuff. Like they got washed out. Some lakes even bleed into the ocean and stuff. So I mean, depending on where it was at, I mean, it's possible, even with like a manhunt that she fell in, drowned, and got swept away somewhere. It's always a possibility. I mean, more likely
is a possibility.
With stuff like this, it's somebody that just came along at that time, especially if there's people that are living in squalor in the middle of nowhere, and they're
the thing that was interesting is because they were staying at this particular camp, so I'm assuming I mean, it almost sounds silly for me to say it, but obviously it's a national park and they're at this particular camp with a lot of people, her family and friends. I don't know how many people in total were in the group, but you would think with that many, if she was alone, or like we see in so many damn movies, her and maybe another person or two other people, then, it already sounds like a bad situation. But from what it sounded like, there was at least, a group of 5 or 6, including her. Right. And they're at this particular camp. I forgot what it's called, Sunrise Sierra or something like that, but it's an actual camp within Yosemite. And supposedly this lake was within earshot. So, I guess what I'm saying is if a predator, if a human, abducted her or whatever, man, they got a lot of guts, because it's not like she was alone. And if it's within earshot, I'm sure you would have heard, multiple people, and unless they are super, like, binoculars, and checking them out. Okay, there's 5 people, 3 guys and 2 ladies and this 14-year-old girl. I mean, it just seems like it's creepy. That's why the story rang to me, because if it was just her and another person, or maybe 2 other people, okay, but from what it sounded like, it was a group. So
yeah, but I mean, if everyone's partying and not paying attention, living their best life, you're kind of just like, it's not that far fetched to think somebody could go missing. I mean, we used to take, when I was growing up, we used to take it was like a Father's Day trip, and we'd go out to what was it, Sequoia, something like that. I don't remember, but it's like literally in the middle of the woods. Like us kids, like the parents or the dads, it was all dads, and then the kids, like they were living their best life, drinking, having a good time, doing all that stuff, and like we got to roam free. Like the only rules were like something along the lines like, if you're hungry, eat; if you're tired, sleep, and leave the dads alone. And like, I mean, nobody, like, I mean, we would just disappear for like hours, right? Like nobody knew. Like we could have been gone, we could have been away, but like, one, it was a different time, but like 2, it's just like, it goes to show, like they're all, having a good time, drinking, hanging out. It's buddy time, it's buddy cop time. Like, it's just the last thing on their mind is like, oh, where's our kid?
Right.
I guess crazy as it sounds, I mean, it's the truth. It's like, oh, like they'll figure it out. Like they'll come back eventually. And then and like we did that every year for like 6 years, something like that. No one ever like went missing, luckily, or anything like that. But like there were times where like you just see some kids like straggle in at like 10 o'clock at night, and they're like, "Oh, we got lost." It's just like we've been trying to find camp for like 3 hours, because it's like all these trails, like literally in the middle of the forest. Like there's all these like, trails, and they hike up the mountain and stuff. So even though it's like in an earshot, like there's music playing, people are drinking, people are having a good time, like living their best life. Like it's not out of the realm of possibility that somebody just swooped them up. Or I mean, it literally, like Wayne said, it kidnappings happen in seconds, like literally seconds. So I it's not that far fetched to think that like somebody came and swooped the kid up. Unfortunately.
Very unfortunate. Crazy stuff, man. For you guys in the chat, let us know some more of what you think about that, and we'll get to Jake. Did you want to throw your story? I know you and Fade are gonna tag team.
We want to talk a little bit about Kenny Veach, not Peach, but Veach.
Give us some good old Kenny Veach. So me and Jake teaming up for the Kenny Veach story. Many of you may be familiar with Kenny Veach. It was a really popular story for quite some time. It also was made into a movie. It was like a documentary style movie, like, did this guy go missing or whatever? Kind of, it's like one of those movies, like, is it real? Is it not real? But Kenny Veach is a guy that mysteriously disappeared. Essentially, long story short, summarized, he was adventurous. He was a hiker that lived here in Las Vegas and loved to just go exploring out in the middle of the deserts and remote locations and stuff, and stumbled across the cave. Jake, where did he find that cave?
He found it outside of a Nellis Air Force Base, which is an interesting place to go hiking. I guess apparently he got a comment or something on his YouTube video saying like, hey, you got to go check out this one really creepy cave by this Air Force Base. He actually did it and just gone.
Lo and behold.
Wow. An M-shaped cave, like a capital M. Apparently, I don't. It sounds spooky. I wouldn't do it personally. I would not be going out there close to a military base. Maybe something fucked up's going on there. No.
Yeah. So the base or the cave itself. So people have tried to find the cave since then. There's several YouTubers that believe that they have. There was even people that went back, and there was a sign at a cave that was similar that basically said no trespassing now, that wasn't there before. And now they believe the cave was covered up. Like there's people that have found a cave that looks like it's been covered up at some point along the lines, although there's many people that think otherwise. But this cave was in or around like the Area 51 base, like right outside, kind of like in between S4. There are cases, where people have stumbled too close and all of a sudden were approached by men that weren't, identified, that were making a lot of interesting, scary threats about, hey, like, you shouldn't be in these parts here. But the cave itself, the M cave, supposedly, this cave gave off some type of radiation. It would make people sick. There was another gentleman that discovered the cave and documented it, and he ended up becoming, vomiting as well. So it's believed that like that's the sign for the cave. Like if you find this cave and it's giving off some type of radiation, they don't know what exactly is inside the cave. Kenny Veach never actually, like Whitney tried to go inside because he loved to explore the caves that he found, but he was never able to fully go in there because it basically discombobulated him. Now there's theories about that, whether, it could have been radiation, right? There's natural radiation. There's all kinds of different things in this world. Some think that it could have been, depending on the shape of the cave and the depth and stuff, that it could have been even just sound waves. So like one of the famous connections is why am I blanking on the show? What's the Mythbusters? There you go.
Mythbusters.
They did something similar with sound waves and made themselves like literally sick and stuff. So depending on like what's funneling through there, certain wind frequencies, stuff like that can make you feel, your equilibrium's off and all kinds of stuff that really can, just challenge the mind, right? There are several common themes when it comes to this. Now, obviously, the sci-fi one, the supernatural one, is aliens. Good old-fashioned aliens, because Area 51. He was a big. He was a big like conspiracy theorist, big into like mysteries and especially UFOs and aliens. He watched a lot of Stephen Greer, who he basically has like he's one of the leading researchers and basically the UFO. He's talked to many of the whistleblowers. He's done documentaries and movies and all kinds of stuff in regards to trying to push and convince the government to release all of these documentations. He's been a lead. Like head in the march to like get a lot of these like declassified things or these classified things declassified. And so he a lot of people believe that he stumbled across something that he shouldn't have stumbled, whether it was aliens or the Area 51, the secret conspiracies, that, hey, maybe he was abducted by there, because there was no really trace. So there was this little not whale. There's no whale in the middle of the desert.
There might be,
especially a little one.
Maybe, yeah. So and
just hanging out.
They only found his cell phone, which was the interesting thing. There's no trace, no tracks. They did a search team. They did everything to try to find this man, and he ceases to exist. However, there are more plausible explanations as to what happened to him. Again, the fun one is aliens. Everyone likes a good alien story, right, Jake? Don't you love yourself some good aliens?
I do. I very much so do.
But yeah, so basically you have the alien story. The other more likely scenarios is one, he unalived himself. He basically helped move a pawn off the board. It's YouTube. I got to be careful how I phrase that stuff, right? So I'm sure you're picking up what I'm putting down. And the reason for this is he basically was a sinking ship. He was losing his house. He was he already had mental health issues and all kinds of stuff. He was already contemplating it. His girlfriend or wife at the time said that when he went back to the cave again to document it, he left his cameras behind, but he did take his pistol. And that wasn't uncommon for him because every time he went, like there's even a video of him at like trying to find the cave again, and he has his, because the first time he went, he didn't take it. The second time he brought it just in case to be safe, and then he went back again, and they believe that he was done because he was losing his house. He was doing everything he could to basically salvage his house so he could still live in it. He was even offering for people to buy the house, and he'd live in as a caretaker, which didn't go well. He was on trying to get on Shark Tank and came out with all these like inventions and was just basically funneling all of his money into these inventions. And none of them were successful. They were all like, sucks to say, but they were terrible inventions that nobody would want. But he was just desperate. And they believe that he just walked to the desert somewhere. That as far, because people always ask, well, then there would have been evidence, right? Like, if he, then there would be, well, it's bad to be someone. But many believe that he left his phone in that particular place so they couldn't track him. So basically, he went to that place, dropped off his phone, and then walked who knows where. And it was very common for him to walk for like 12, 16 plus hours. So, if it was like a 4 or 5 hour hike to this place, it wasn't uncommon for him to literally spend an entire day walking, like spend 12 hours walking one day, one way, 12 hours walking another way. Like he literally has videos where he talks about like a lot of his, after he's done, his feet are like, he walks to the point where his feet are bloody, like he's losing toenails. Like he's just, because that's just his passion. He's like obsessed with like finding these remote things. So the most common scenario is that he basically just dropped his phone at this like little mine thing and then ventured off who knows where, which means he probably will never be found because who knows how far he walked, how long he walked. I mean, he could have walked for days even, maybe just kind of camped out. He wasn't adventurous. He was an outdoorsman. Now, that is the most likely scenario. Another kind of conspiracy that has made its way around the internet is that he didn't do it, that he basically faked his unaliving because his sister owns a shop in Las Vegas, and there was footage of somebody breaking into the shop and didn't steal anything, but I believe it was like a laptop or something, and the person looked very similar to him, so much so that even his mother said it was him. But that's already been debunked. The police got involved, everyone got involved and said, no, that's definitely not him. It's somebody else. When you like break down the actual footage, it doesn't actually really look like him. At a glance, when you see the hood and everything like that, you could mistake him. But a lot of people thought that he broke into this place, took the laptop, took some stuff, but he didn't like steal anything. Like he didn't take the money in the the cash register. He didn't like do anything that would warrant a normal burglary, which is why a lot of people thought, oh, it has to be him. And then plus the mother kind of gave that conspiracy as well. But a lot of that doesn't make sense because, a lot of like the people that clean on to him being abducted by aliens. The other big one is that he wasn't abducted by aliens, that he was actually captured by the guys at Area 51, that he basically just kept pushing it because he also got an email from like an anonymous user or whatever that he just kind of took as some troll on the internet that basically said when he said he was going to go back, told him, whatever you don't do that. Like whatever you do, don't do that. You could go missing. And he kind of was like, well, what do you mean by that? But he never got a response and then decided to do it anyway. So a lot of people clean onto that and think like, oh, that was like their warning. Like, hey, if you keep coming here, we're gonna make you disappear here. And he kept pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and kind of stumbled across something that he wasn't able to find, which, I mean, is a very plausible thing. But given the circumstances, given his girlfriend or fiance at the time and like her testimony and everything about that, she said that like, the writing was on the wall as far as him like disappearing, that he basically was done with everything. A lot of people point to like, well, he had a daughter that he would like loved and stuff, but usually when you do that stuff, it's a selfish act anyway, right? You're usually leaving loved ones behind. You're usually leaving, many fathers leave children, many children leave parents, many parents leave grandparents and children, right? Like you're not in that moment. You're not thinking like, oh, I have my kid. A lot of times people think, you know, my kid would be better off, right? Because look at me, I'm drowning in debt. I just lost my house. My life is in shambles. It's an absolute mess, right? My daughter would just be so much better off if I just didn't exist. And so, you know, a lot of like the things that like the internet is trying to clean onto as like, he's still out there, he's somewhere. A lot of that has already been kind of debunked, or at least people that would know kind of the mental state he was in, such as his girlfriend and stuff, other family members, other friends who were kind of like, yeah, he was already at that point. We were trying to talk him out of it. He was kind of, you know, using the explorations to kind of get away and clear his mind and try to right himself. It just didn't work out. And, you know, that he just eventually got to that point because as he was getting the success with the cave and, you know, him stumbling across everything and all that stuff. And it was around the same time that everything was becoming a disaster. So it was like his you know, starting to trend blessings didn't outweigh what he perceived as just unrecoverable. Like, I'm not going to be able to get out of this forever, my age, all that stuff. And yeah, so more likely than not, he just went away and disappeared. But the conspiracy theorists like to clean on to aliens or Area 51 military snatched him up and he's out there somewhere. But he's still no clue where he is. The only thing that they've ever been able to find is his phone. But what do you guys think? What about you, Knight? We'll go in our little order.
No tracks or no nothing other than the phone, huh, man?
So
that's crazy.
There were they tracked, people have tracked to the site or around about the site. The problem is like other people have found what they believe to be the M cave just based on Kenny Veach's, recollections, and as well as watching his videos, and because he was live streaming the whole thing. So people kind of track where did he park, where did he get out, how did he do that, and they believe that they found it. As far as I know, only one person has found a cave and had a similar experience where he was vomiting and all that stuff. And again, he documented that as well. But even then, it's that could be a lot of things. That could be, it's possible if there was a cave in that area that was giving off that type of thing. It's not out of the realm of possibility that there were others, right? If it is if it's a common phenomenon in that area, right, there would be more than one. Also, you can make yourself sick, right? If you believe something enough, right? Your beliefs become reality. He's walking. He believes he found this cave. He believes, he knows in his mind that this cave makes you sick. This cave, because he approached the cave, he tried to do the whole thing, and then he left. And 20 minutes later on his walk, then he started to become lightheaded. Then he started to become sick. Then he started to all of the effects started to take place. It didn't happen in the moment where he was at. So a lot of people think A, it was staged and fake, or B, it was, he just had it in his head that it was that. But they've tried to track and go to, again, people have found a cave that had a sign, but nobody knows if that sign really was put on by the military at the 51 base, or somebody just found that random cave, put the sign up trying to be funny. There's just there's so many unknowns to the story that the cave, it could have been a random cave, could have been a harmless cave. Again, he's dealing with all this depression and his life crumbling to pieces. People get lightheaded, people get sick, people get all kinds of stuff. He could have found a cave that was just completely harmless and was making himself sick along the way, just contemplating his thoughts, everything. It's a million things. But sorry, go ahead.
Well, no, I was gonna say, there's two paths of it. Like you said, he might have, made that decision and kind of went wherever and will never be found. I think sounds like, from everything, when you put it all together, that's probably the more likely scenario, especially with his life the way that it was, and like you said, the people around him, what they said as far as their their thoughts. Of course, there's that other part of me, you know, when we talk about the fact that it was near Area 51 and the possibility of the, like you said, the different frequencies and all that. I mean, that could definitely, there could be something to that, man. And like, you know, we're hoping, you know, maybe next week to have an interesting conversation that might piggyback on that. But there's a lot of crazy stuff out there, man, according to a lot of people, a lot of credible sources. I mean, when you talk about Area 51, so that's the part that kind of, you know, there's that little part of me that's like, but maybe, you know, because there's just so many. And not only that, and I'm not even talking about aliens, right?
Yeah.
I'm talking about actual people that are keeping the lid on the different happenings in Area 51. And there's been, you know, actual evidence of that being done by humans, you know, by people in the know, you know,
especially if you keep pushing, you know what
exactly.
I mean? Especially, you know, like that's why a lot of people think
exactly
that either he made the decision for himself or he just kept pushing. They warned him, they told him stop doing this, and he just kept doing it. And like, there's people that believe that he's not even dead, that he's sitting in a prison somewhere. That, you know, that he's sitting in, that he's like Area 50. There's a lot of people that believe Area 51 has a jail, has some type of like holding cell where like, you know, you keep doing stupid stuff, we're just going to keep you here. And guess what? It's off the grid. No one's going to know. We can keep you here as long as you want, as long as we want. And guess what? When we release you, no one's going to believe you.
Well, and the thing of it is, man,
you're just another crazy conspiracy theorist. So
yeah, you know? and they have a huge reach. I mean, you know, I'm sure in other streams we'll talk about these types of things, but just stuff that I've read, stuff that I've seen in documentaries and so forth, they really can they can really mess you up. I mean, they find out everything, they know everything. So and I truly do believe that. I mean, you know, I'm not trying to say it's anything other than knowledge based. I'm not saying it's extraterrestrial, but I'm just saying it's a huge reach. So that part of me thinks, who knows, man. So that's my thought.
You know, nothing you said disproves aliens being involved with this. I'm just, call me a conspiracy theorist, but I mean, nothing you said. I do like what you guys were touching on, though, in regards to like his own personal philosophy, and maybe that's why he went missing. He's gone somewhere. I don't know. It really makes me question like what really happened here, because it almost feels like there's some staging involved in a weird way. Like maybe he stumbled upon something that he shouldn't have, and the government got involved and stopped it. So like in terms of like natural radiation too, that you were touching on earlier, like what, like I'm dumb when it comes to this shit. Like what could cause something like natural radiation out in the wild, like especially in the Nevada desert? Like is that a viable like thing? Like does that happen?
I would think so, man, because they supposedly, and there's been evidence of certain things, but the different projects that they're working on out there, I mean, and obviously so much of it is classified, and you know, you don't really know the exact specifics, but I mean, there's a lot of different projects and testings and so forth out there. So, you know, and a lot of it is working on things. And again, you know, you talked about aliens, and I'm with you on that, but also things that are just, you know, just technology based, that are human. You know, we're working on different things and trying to push
that the government doesn't want people to know. Yeah.
So, I mean, I definitely believe that's at least feasible. Was it? I don't know, but it definitely, when you say it, or when, you know, Fate was talking about it, it definitely made me think, oh, that's a possibility, man, because they work on a lot of different stuff out there.
Yeah, and I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, it also, if the cave really was this place, I mean, it could have been a holding place for all we know, for like, you know, testing and stuff. They could have been testing a weapon to like, you know, like what if, you know, we could put this in a building? You're not gonna put it, like, you just test it in a cave first. I mean, there's a million things. There's also just natural, like maybe there's some kind of, you know, like just natural like fault lines or fumes, like depending on where it's at. I mean, you could be in like because we don't know exactly where it's at. Like some of that desert is California, so I mean, you could have fault lines, you could have you know, just natural gases stemming from the earth itself that is causing, you know, I mean, even just small amounts and traces can make you sick or make you dizzy. You know, I mean, there's a million things it could be. I mean, he's also walking around in the heat, right? And like, you know, so he could just, I mean, it could just be natural. Like he could have just gotten to that cave and just started to experience dizziness and, you know, and just thought it was the cave, but really it was dehydration or something. You know, like, I mean, there are plenty of expert explorers and people that have, you know, gone to even like Mount Everest and stuff like that have done it a million times, and they just make that one mistake, or they think like, oh no, usually I can just take a couple steps. But as you get older, your body change, there's so many different possibilities of like what could have happened to him in that, like when he found the cave, right? And I mean, you know, I mean, it's possible that nothing happened, like, you know, that it's a good story, right? You know, and it's just straightforward. You know, I mean, obviously something happened to the guy because like he's a documented guy, but like, you know what I'm saying? Like he might have just
went to a cave somewhere and just disappeared that we just haven't come across yet. I mean, it could be as simple as that.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to necessarily be anything crazy. I mean, he could have found the cave, went back, you know, and just did his thing. And like the whole time, again, he was doing it for, you know, views on YouTube and stuff like that, right? I mean, he could have found a cave and made up the whole story. You know, he could have, again, I mean, he was walking far. So he definitely, like, there are things that we do know, such as like he hiked miles into the desert. He found this random cave, all that stuff, but everything else could have been an act. Right, he could have gotten to the cave and like, oh man, I'm starting to feel dizzy. Like, you know, oh man, there's some radiation coming off of, like, yeah, and just told a fun, convincing story to try to generate some more viewers, generate some more audience, right? Because I mean, what's more interesting? You found a cave that was cool and it was the shape of an M, or you found a cave that was the M shape that was close to Area 51 that was giving off radiation, making people sick, and the guy disappeared. Right? Like,
right.
You know, like one's gonna get millions of views, the other one people are gonna be like, "That's cute," like, you know,
like great job,
cool cave, that's cute. But like, you know, unfortunately, it's just but yeah, anyway.
That's crazy, man. That's absolutely crazy. But yeah, I don't know, man. I could. This is a story that I'm divided on. You know, I could kind of see it going either way. I'm leaning more towards, you know, the more logical explanation, but wow, that's a good one. Good one.
What about you, Craven?
I see three scenarios for me. Either one is an accident where he went in and misgauged and fell down to the bottom of this thing, and that's it. The second one is intentional, based on his circumstances, and he, you know, chose that to be the end. Or what was my third option? I know I had three. The third one could be that he took a page from the Stu Macher playbook, and he's faked his death, and he got out from under everything, and he's still out there somewhere. And maybe one day, he probably already has resurfaced, but it looks a lot different. No one knows him.
Just like how Stu is about to in Scream 7, right?
There's a good chance. There's a chance anyway. Yes, there's very much a chance he's going to come back in 7. So I think, to me, those are the most three likely scenarios, one of those three. And then if I had to go to a fourth option after that, it would be the government next, where he crossed over some line he shouldn't have. And I mean, my nephew has been to the gates, the fences at Area 51, and he took a picture, and it literally says, if you cross this fence, you will be shot.
Wow.
It says that. It's not even like you're trespassing. It says you will be shot. And so I'm telling you, man, ever since I saw that, I'm like, dude. And that was out on the way out, the far barrier fence of Area 51, the furthest out you can go. So I'm telling you right now, if he went into a cave, or he came out of some area that he crossed over the wherever the border was, he could have been taken out, and we'll never know. That'll be the end of it. So to me, that's 4 scenarios that make the most sense to me of what probably happened.
Yeah. You don't think it's aliens?
I personally don't know. I think the other four are much more likely than the alien scenario. Alien's fun to talk about, but I think that's far more reaching than the first four. Occam's razor, right?
That's too bad.
That's way
too bad.
Yeah, sorry. I just right, check out, man.
But you know what's not too bad? Just to jump in real quick, is when Carrie Crave Cinema sends in a super sticker. Yay!
There we go.
Thank you, Carrie. We really
appreciate
that. Seriously, thank you so much for just always being so supportive in that way. Very generous of you. Cool.
Craven, do you even believe in aliens?
I believe it's possible. Yeah, I mean, if you I think it's possible. If you ask me, like, do I believe that they are there? I don't know. And the answer is I really don't know. I don't rule it out because I think that that it's certainly possible that God could have created other life forms and other places. That absolutely. I mean, there's nothing in the Word that says He didn't. The Bible is silent on aliens or extraterrestrial life or whatever. So in my perspective, it's not out of the realm of possibility. I don't know that I wouldn't say it's likely though, but I would say it's possible. Yeah.
Well, I mean, even from a religious standpoint, right? The Bible is God's word to man. Who's to say that there isn't another life that don't have their own word? That especially a completely different planet with a completely different everything. I mean, their laws might not be the same as ours. As far as the word goes. So I think
he certainly has the ability to do anything he wants to within the nature that he has. So could he have a whole other species of life that? Sure, absolutely he could. It wouldn't shock me at all. And like I say, the Bible is silent, so it doesn't say yay or nay.
Yeah,
that's not.
Well, I mean, why would you stop? Even whether we were first or last, why would you think if you created life, you'd create? And I mean, even on our own planet, there's multiple different life, right? Why wouldn't you continue to create? Why wouldn't you make other stuff elsewhere? Right? That's a very vast universe. It's a lot of wasted space if there's nothing, right? Think of how ever vast our universe is. To think that there's nothing out there, I mean, which is it's not impossible, but it's either there's a ton of life or there's none.
Or
if there's none, it's just if there's none, then it's a lot of wasted space,
Or it's just a lot of very creative, beautiful reflection of his strength and magnitude of his power, which reflects his nature and attributes. So in that respect, it's not wasted. It's actually just
but a lot of it we'll never see. A lot of it
for sure.
A lot of it we'd never know. It's it's mystery. You're so at that point you're creating for yourself. You're not creating for others. So that's something.
Well, remember the sky, the planets, all of that reflects. It all points to how powerful he is. Yeah, so it's to put us in awe, which we are. When we see all this stuff, it's like, whoa. In other words, he's not going to let us think that any of us were smart enough to do any of that. You're going to have to say,
for a Jupiter brain.
Yeah, there's no Jupiter brain that's doing this, man. This is something that's so powerful beyond any comprehension the four of us could ever comprehend the true power of that to do that. So yeah, man, I look at it more like that, but sure, he could have done other things too, and one day we'll find out eventually. But
hopefully we get something concrete.
Yeah. Until then, that's
well said.
Like I say, we have enough issues on our own little planet Earth to figure out. That'll keep us busy for beyond our lifetime.
Right. It's true. That's true.
Right.
And also, Stephen, how about you? Did you have a story you wanted to throw at us for a reaction?
Sure. This will be the story of. This is a story of. I don't know if it made national news, so you guys may not have heard of this particular case, but this one hits closer to the home for me, which I thought would be kind of cool. It's the disappearance of a college kid named Jason Landry, and we're coming up on the.
He said, "Don't put this on screen." He put it on screen.
Holding it on screen.
You guys got that. You're all right.
Gosh,
I'm
that's
sorry. I'm sorry, Carrie.
I was trying not to interrupt Craven, but that was great. When you put it up, I like read it. I was like, "That's great."
And it wasn't quick. Jake was like, "You're just holding it out there." All right.
That's funny.
Sorry, Craven.
No, you're all right, man. So find a little bit of cough. So if I have to mute, you understand. But anyway, this happened. We're coming up on the 3rd anniversary. Excuse me, on December the 13th, actually. So he lived in San Marcos, which is, basically Austin. He's a college kid, and he leaves his apartment at 10:55 p.m. on December 13th, 3 years ago, 2020. And they track him. But obviously the authorities have tracked based on his GPS data and stuff. And he enters a small town called Luling, Texas. And when he goes through, there's a point in this town or Highway 80, which is the main highway, turns into Austin Street, right? And he stopped using his Waze app and began using Snapchat at this point in time. And then he continues on through an intersection, and then all of a sudden, at this particular intersection, his digital footprint completely stops. And then he continues, and they know this because of where they found his car. He continued on east on you don't need to tell the streets anyway. He continued on, and they found his car abandoned at 12:30 a.m. Now you got to remember the timeline of all this. I don't think I mentioned that. So it started on December 13th, 10:55 p.m. He leaves his apartment. At 12:30 a.m., they find his abandoned car. It's a 67-minute window between his last data point and the discovery of the crash scene of his car. And they found his cell phone had cell signal. It was an active signal. It was powered on, but it was not used since that intersection back earlier I was telling you about. And the car was found abandoned with the lights on, keys in the ignition. Front passenger side door was locked. The crash site, they say, was a single vehicle crash. Got some notes I'm going over here. Most likely from overcorrecting on the gravel road and spinning off the road. No one knows why he got off the main freeway. He's coming to Houston. So he's on this gravel road, and the car spun and hit a tree. And that's where the car was. Sorry. There's no evidence of any other vehicle or outside force being involved in the collision. And that was it. The rear window was broken out because of the impact of the tree. Now, they towed the car, blah, blah, blah. And then they entered through the unlocked driver's side door. They found the cell phone between the driver's seat and center console. So the kid left his cell phone on with a signal in the car, and don't know why obviously we did that. 900, they said approximately 900 feet from the crash scene, they found articles of his clothing. They found shorts, shirt, underwear, socks, sandals, a wristwatch in the road about 900 feet away. They processed all of that and found just a single small blood smear. And the sheriff's office said it was not indicative of any serious bodily injury. It could have been caused by him touching the barbed wire fence that he hit or foliage where the tree was. There was no blood in the car anywhere. And so 900 feet away, they find these personal items. They also find a backpack. They also found a laptop computer, all of his gaming equipment, everything, sitting there in this spot, at this location, 900 feet from the car. Laptop gaming, and so they said they believe the clothing that was found in the roadway was what he was wearing before the crash. So it appears he unclothed everything, even the sandals, everything. They think he was wearing that. And they said there was no indication that it was removed under duress or threat. It was cold weather at the time that he went missing. It was between 36 and 40 degrees. So it was Fahrenheit, so it was cold when this happened. And they said that they believe this was an isolated instance, and that there's no evidence that an unknown person of interest was involved. And that's the case of Jason Landry that's still open, and that they are still investigating, even now coming on the 3rd year anniversary. The family, everyone is still, trying to find clues, offering rewards, you name it. He's completely vanished. Nothing. That's all that they ever found. And he was on his way home from college to his mom's house. Like, a lot of college kids go home. It's the holidays, Christmas break. And
wow.
So what do you think, guys? That is it. There were no indication of anyone else involved, as the police said, anywhere with this.
Yeah. I mean, I'll start and then we can go in a circle. But to me, I mean, it boils down to a couple things. Either A, he staged it like that for whatever reason, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe he just wanted to disappear. Another thing is, if he got in a crash and he hit his head, even if there wasn't, like, maybe it didn't cause a contusion to where there was blood, but I mean, if he hit his head or even some whiplash or something, it could have caused him all kinds of, like, Julie said, psychosis. He could have been out of his mind, you know what I mean, and just thought, whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, people do stuff like that all the time with head injuries, and strip naked, grab the barbed wire, freaked out. Maybe he thought that it was a monster attacking him or something, because he's like just out of his mind at the moment from the crash and just took off running somewhere naked. I mean, people do all kinds of just crazy stuff with head injuries, mm-hmm. And I mean, there's people that have had head injuries and like years later have had things where they just will randomly like just start walking off, or you're just like, what are you doing? Like, right? It's just like they're just out of it. So my guess, if assuming no one was involved, which just because they didn't find evidence of it doesn't mean that there wasn't, like, especially if he had a detour somewhere, somebody could have been chasing him, or he thought somebody was chasing him, like, depending on who the person is. What if he was paranoid? What if he was doing drugs prior? He could have been on something and maybe there wasn't anybody, but in his mind, he just thought there was, and crashed the car and just stripped naked for whatever reason, or maybe he thought there were bugs in his clothes or something, especially if he was on some kind. Because the problem is, if you don't have the body, you can't run any type of toxology reports or anything like that to identify like what was going on. For all we know, maybe nothing happened. Maybe he thought, especially if he was paranoid. So like, there's all kinds of stories of people, because you can turn on with your Snapchat, you can turn on your GPS, and people can find, like, random people can find you. So if he was using his Snapchat and maybe he turned on the tracking and spazzed out, right? Like, there's a million things that could have happened in that regard. My guess is that it was either a head injury, he faked it, or he was on some type of drug. I mean, even if it wasn't like, illegal narcotics, like some people have medication that messes them up. That could be a possibility. I know people that have family members that have been on the wrong medication and stuff, and they've had some crazy experiences. So, Yeah, that's probably my guess with those kind of things. What about you, Knight?
I was gonna say if there was that possibility, it's very real with medication, with any type of side effect and so forth. I've seen that in not only in my work but in my um, personal life, where sometimes you just have side effects of a medication, or if you, like you said, if there was something else that was involved, and some things just don't mix. The whole idea of psychosis could be from that, or it could have been, like you said, from the impact of the crash and so forth. I mean, there are people that literally will see and hear stuff that we'd never even think of, and then basically kind of go from there. So that's very possible, and especially like you said too, with the impact to the head. um which makes you even think about things like boxers and so forth. We're not meant to like have that happen. You know what I mean? There's a reason we have a skull and all these different things to protect the brain. But if there was impact, and that could definitely change this whole mental state, which the part with the clothes, that's the weird part to me. Maybe something was going on, like you said, and this is true too, with the bugs, thinking bugs are all over you. That is a real thing, man.
Yeah.
Stripping naked, like, oh, there's bugs all over my clothes and so forth. And then
Especially if you're tripping on some drugs, like you're taking some acid or something, you might think things are in your skin.
right, exactly. So that is a real thing. So I think that's probably the most likely thing. Or if it was something staged, that's the other part of it. That seems a little kind of odd, in the sense, of course, maybe we don't know all the details, but if he was just coming home for the holidays and didn't have necessarily any things in his life that would point towards him wanting to disappear, that's the part where the staging thing seems a little odd. So yeah, that's a good one as far as, wow, what really happened? That's a really, really odd one, because
especially if he was a college kid, right? Isn't that what you said?
Yeah, he's like 22.
He's probably, especially if he's going to college, he's probably doing all kinds of stuff. He's probably taking uppers and downers and left betweeners, and he's having a little party and stuff like that. I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, if I had to guess, like if I had to put money on it, it was probably a drug related incident. Especially if he was on drugs, especially with the crash. Like if he was limp or something. I mean, we've seen people like their car fully encased and they walk out perfectly fine. And it's because they just, like he could have been completely out of his mind. So my guess is, sorry, I mean,
no. No, like I said, this is a good one, because there isn't, I don't feel strongly in any particular direction, because this could be multiple things. But anyways, what do you think, Jake? Any thoughts?
I'm very much so with you, Knight. Like, I'm not strongly one way or the other, but just to kind of hit on something we haven't really talked about, I liked what Wayne Turner was talking about in the chat, saying could have been forced at gunpoint to disrobe and kidnapped. Yeah. I don't know. There's things that are still left unexplained even there. Or aliens. Hey Wayne, I love that. No, but that makes sense to me. Like the clothes being gone is the weirdest thing about the whole situation. Like something else was good. There's another factor here that's beyond what's obvious. So that makes sense to me. That feels like some like creepy ass Breaking Bad shit that could actually happen.
You're right. Oh my god.
For those of us who have seen Better Call Saul, we've all seen what is it, Bagman or whatever. You know what I'm talking about. Look, I this shit is awful, horrifying, and unfortunately does really happen. You never know. You never know, man. I don't know. That's where I'm at right now. I feel like I don't know. I don't know how I feel about the drugs. You know what I mean? It's like, look, we're all above the age of 25. We've all been to college. I don't know. I've never had that happen to me. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say. Without saying anything, that's what I'm gonna say.
I've seen people like at parties and stuff. I've seen people trip out and all kinds of stuff. And
but not that.
You said this happened 3 years ago.
3 years ago on the 13th.
So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff now. Like what if they were smoking Flocka like where that literally turns people into zombies, like, or people.
Okay, well that shit's crazy. See, if we're just talking about acid, that's one thing. But we're talking about that. Jesus Christ.
The drugs that people take now are not the drugs that like people took when I was a kid, or like when Craven at Night was a kid. Like people are doing all kinds. They're finding all kinds. People are inhaling Tide Pods, like
right?
That was the thing. That was
literally.
It was.
But I'm like lean towards who knows? people were smoking bath salts and doing all kinds of stuff, lacing with fentanyl and all. Like,
but that doesn't explain where he's at, though. That could explain why he did the crazy stuff at the site.
Mm-hmm.
But the question still above that is, where is he? He's disappeared.
The kidnapping kind of explains that, though.
Kidnapping would good.
Kidnapping would.
Even as crazy as it sounds, it's possible that the whole sequence happened. He was high on something and then was running around naked and then got kidnapped.
Yeah,
It might have had nothing to do. Very possible that he got
wrong place at the wrong time, kind of thing.
Yeah, but if you're somebody that was like that kind of way where you're gonna kidnap somebody, if he's all hopped up on drugs, naked, like that, that's free dinner, for somebody like that,
That's right.
Well,
that was just the way it popped into my head. That was terrible.
That's a way of saying it,
there are people.
Well, I'm trying to tiptoe because YouTube's so strict about stuff.
I know.
I can't say the way.
Can't be who you want to be.
Yeah, I just wanted to blatantly say it, but I can't.
Just a little off-kilter thing. I hate to change the subject for 2 seconds, but I said shit 18 times. I counted in my video today. It's still monetized. For now. Dude, all of my stuff is still all of my stuff is still monetized. Stuff from years ago is still monetized. I swear in every video. I don't know. YouTube's just whatever, Jake. You know what?
They've
swear and cuss.
They've loosened up on the swearing, but certain words, you can't say the S word. You have to say things like "unalive yourself," things like that. Certain words. If I'm over here trying to say,
I don't say that. I'm very careful about that stuff, but
or the R or the R word and stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is kind of what
that includes the live chat.
Yeah. Stuff moderators would never say.
That's the kind of thing that I'm trying to tiptoe around, where it's this guy's already lined up for you if you're somebody like that. You know what I mean? So that's my point. And again, I'm trying to raise it.
I'm gonna say this. I think that there's something to the idea of disorientation, under the influence, or kidnapping, because I've never met a college kid that would leave their phone and their wallet, their laptop, and their gaming system behind.
Right.
That's a really good point. Yeah, the gaming PC, dude, no way. No way.
That's gold. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I wouldn't even want to do that.
No. So whatever happened, it had to have been under duress, or he was completely out of his mind.
So I personally know people. I try to be careful I don't accidentally say who it is. I know somebody personally that took something and called me freaking out that dragons were chasing him. That literal dragons that he was seeing dragons and they were chasing him. And I didn't hear from him for a week. Nobody did. He just was coming off it. Left his I was on the phone, click, couldn't call, couldn't get a hold of him, nothing. He left his phone, talked to people that knew him. He literally had nothing on him. He thought dragons were chasing him and needed to do whatever it took to track him. He didn't know if the phone was the reason the dragons were following him. He didn't know what it was, and just left. And he learned from that experience. Tell you that.
I'm glad you learned from that one, Fade. Yeah. Don't do it anymore.
Oh, it wasn't me.
Just to make sure it wasn't me.
I have a friend. Oh, yeah, we know how those friend stories go.
If it was me, believe me, I'd be like, I had this one time. Unfortunately, it's not me. I'd be more than it, because then I wouldn't have to tiptoe around the story. I could just tell you, hey, look,
that's true.
This happened to me. True. So, but and I know people that have had some crazy trips on stuff that just like, I mean, even like comments, like even shrooms and stuff, right? Like I know people that have had bad trips on shrooms and literally thought their skin was falling off, like, and just freaking out and just stripping it. Like, I mean, like, because I was always like the sober one growing up. That's why I was always like the DD and stuff. So like, you know, I was always like, all my friends were all getting, you know, chocolatey wasted, and and I got to experience all of their experiences. And you know, most of the time it was tame, most of the time it was just normal stuff. But like every once in a while, you'd have this like crazy thing where it was like, oh, okay, like. Like so this is what we're doing here. Oh okay, he's leaving now. Like good luck. Like, you know, like it's just so I don't know, it wouldn't shock me if this dude just took something bad, and everyone responds differently. Like, you know, like I know, like even I know people that have tripped on like just regular weed, right? Like smoke pot and get all paranoid and stuff and think, you know, are checking under the thing and hiding. And
we've all had to be trip sitters at some point, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why it doesn't shock me that this guy, if he did, again, we don't know, we're just guessing, but it wouldn't shock me if like they found him at some point and came to that conclusion. And it's like, well, yeah, he left everything because he was just tripping. You know, he might have thought that all that equipment was what was tracking him. You know, like that.
Wow.
You know, that computer, the game, he said like, oh, it's all electronic. I need to get rid of my phone. I need to get rid of everything. Oh, maybe there's, you know, maybe they put something in my shirt and my clothes. Let me take my clothes
Something's
off.
in my head.
Yeah, like I mean, he could have. Who knows what he thought, right? If he was on that type of stuff. Again, I mean, it's all speculatory, but still. It's
well, what's weird though is that he had to have gotten out of the car, grabbed his backpack, grabbed his laptop, all that stuff, carried it 900 feet and dropped it, and then took off his clothes. So it's like, but he left his wallet and his cell phone in the car, but he grabbed all that stuff and carried it 900 feet. And
see, that leads me to believe even more that it was paranoia, right? So you're tripping out, you think somebody's following you, you think you're being tracked, whatever. You ditch the phone, you grab your backpack, you start walking away, you grab out your laptop thinking that it's like, okay, well, this can be my communication because they got my phone tapped. You go to turn on your computer, you start tripping out thinking that, boom, you ditch that stuff. Oh, now it's in my clothes. You know what I mean? Like if he just left everything at the car, then now it's like, okay, that's weird. He just left everything at the car. He walked away. So it's a little, but the fact that like he ditched the phone, he ditched some of the stuff, grabbed the other things. And then there's like a trail, which tells me like he got to one spot, realized this is a bad idea, ditch, got to this spot, realized this is a bad idea, ditch. And then, oh, like everything's tracking. Let me take all this stuff off. Like, you know, and that's it, you know, like that's why it leads me even more to believe that like, oh, that's what that is. That's just, this dude was a space cadet for that moment, like you know, like. But I don't know. Again, just a thought.
Just don't know where he is now, where he went, who took him, what happened. He's vanished.
Hopefully they find him. You know, like I couldn't imagine that as like a family. Imagine as like a family member,
man,
as like somebody like a loved one. You know, you have like whoever it is, your son, or even just like a friend. Imagine like one of your friends just disappeared, like, and you just had no idea. Like it would drive me more crazy that I don't know than knowing, because at least you know it's like, oh man, it sucks.
That's right.
You know, he fell in a hole or whatever. He, you know, decided to make a decision for himself, you know, or whatever, right? Like you get that level of closure. It's like, you know, you just whether you know, the level of impact is always different, but like at least you have that closure. It's that stuff that's just, you know, here it is, it's random, and then like, oh, like, oh wait, no, this is like I have no idea, right? Like how did he die? Because you know, I know myself, like my mind would be racking a million things. You know, like if Craven just disappeared, I'd be like, dude, what happened? Like how did this? Well, what if it was this? What if it was that? Well, what was it? Like, you know, I'd be like trying to figure it out in my head, playing Blues Clues.
Like, wow, man.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hey, that was wow. That's all I can say. That was a good one, Steven. Because
thank you.
That's a weird one.
It is.
Well, as we wind down here, you guys in the live chat, Carrie, you're too much. We appreciate you guys hanging out with us and also giving us your thoughts on these stories too, because that's really, really interesting. Definitely leave us some comments, guys. Let us know your thoughts and your takes on these stories, and also the ones that you guys know about. I saw a couple of other stories in the comments. Trust me, you never know. One of those might be something that we talk about in the future. So definitely leave us some comments, and that would help us out so much. Plus, hitting the like button. Also, make sure you do that. For you guys that are interested in becoming a channel member, please consider it. Hit the join button next to the subscribe button. You can also give us some ideas for future topics. And before we head out, real quick, I just want to say something. I'm looking at the screen, and for a quick second, and Steven, thanks for the link for channel membership. For a quick second, when I'm looking at the screen, this is crazy. I'm looking at Fate and Steven, and it looks like you guys are in the same room. It's tripping me out so bad.
It really does.
It does. Wow.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Sorry.
I just don't. It's tripping me out, man. Like 5 minutes ago, I was looking at you guys and I was like, holy crap, it seems seamless. Like you guys are in the same room. Anyways, the more you know.
What if you just saw me like put my arm around and you just saw Craven's?
Oh, that'd be wild. Yeah,
that would be so crazy. I'd stop the stream like, wait a second. And again,
it'd be even
Julie,
scarier if I wasn't in the room with him.
Exactly.
Right?
Julie, thank you so much for the topic I did. This was really cool. Some really interesting stuff. No doubt. And yes, Carrie, become a member today. Do it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Carrie.
Just do it.
Yes.
Run it.
Exactly. That'll be our new campaign. Run it.
Memberships. Run it. That's it. That's the whole thing. Yeah.
Hey, that's
you don't hit those memberships and that
bad.
Subscribe button, you might disappear.
You.
Ooh. We'll be talking about you in a future episode.
We'll be talking about you in the future.
We don't know what happened to him. This poor son of a bitch. We don't know.
He became a member though.
I know.
They had the opportunity.
They did.
We should make a YouTube movie like that where it's just all of us, and every time somebody doesn't subscribe, they just disappear. every time they don't join, they just disappear. Boom, there you go.
I don't know what happened. We gave him a choice. He didn't want to join the family. Okay.
Right.
All right, guys. We will catch all of you next Monday. Take it easy. Peace out. The collective has spoken. Later.
Bye, guys.
Peace.